The Final One Standing by William Hill on Off the Ball. Download the app and play today. 18 plus gamblingcare.ie.
You're welcome along to Final One Standing. We're looking ahead to the weekend's Premier League action as always, and Final One Standing on Off the Ball is brought to you by William Hill. Download the app and play today. Over 18s only. See gamblingcare.ie for more. Now, Off the Ball's new Final One Standing League is live. I guess we've flushed out everybody who's finally been beaten by this game, and there is a new league starting very soon. Sign up before the 7th of November using the link across our social channels, and the code is OTB1. Code OTB1. And more interestingly, the jackpot has doubled from last time, so there's now €5,000 on offer for the winner for the OTB League. So once more, OTB1 is your code before November 7, and you're in the league. David Wilson is in studio wearing a Diego Maradona 1994 World Cup jersey. Hello, David.
Hey, Eoin.
And Mick is not only in studio, he's still in the game.
I'm one of the last 10. Now, nobody got knocked out the weekend before the international break. All the favourites won.
So you're down to the last 10 teams?
Last 10 players.
In the OTB League?
In the initial OTB League.
In the running for $2,500?
Yeah. Yeah, $2,500 for charity if I win it. For themselves if one of the other 9 people win it. Which I don't really understand. I have no better chance of winning it than anybody else. I still have to make the picks. It's
like being a celebrity contestant on one of those game shows. I often think that like some of the celebrities could actually do with the really big cash pot instead of having to donate it to charity.
Watching the traders at the moment, and they're doing the kind of up to 100,000, and I'm thinking to myself, like, stop talking about the money. Is like they're not going the extra mile for the extra 1,000 here, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's not really making a difference to them. They're sending a load of money to charity anyway. Isn't it great? The extra difference of £1,000 isn't going to change their mentality too much, is it?
No, I hadn't really. But they're obviously not keeping the money. That is for charity, the traders, is it?
Yeah.
So it's like I've been a barefaced liar on television for the last fortnight, but I'm a great person at the same. Here's your check. Here's your gigantic check that I'm going to show up to whoever it is, Tom Daly.
It's all worth it for Ormond Street Hospital.
Give us the rundown. What's the situation this weekend for you?
I'm in bits here. International came at the wrong time. So I'm looking at it here, right? So I don't have access to Chelsea, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Man City, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool, which leaves me with very few teams that you would pick as a winner this weekend. Sunderland home to Wolves is an option, but do you really want to be backing Sunderland to win a game? Like that they have to win. Wolves have shown a bit of improvement. Brighton at home to Newcastle I'm very tempted by, but it's a risky one to go against Newcastle. And after that, it's like I think my next best option is West Ham at home to Brentford. That's banking on some West Ham new manager, post-international break bump. Fortress London Stadium, as we all know. Tough place to go with that atmosphere.
I think.
Easiest place to go in the country.
This is officially known as the Dregs, Mick.
I'm in bits here.
What are you leaning? Terrible. What's your gut feeling now?
Well, my gut feeling is Brighton.
Okay.
And I think maybe I just at this stage have to take a risk. And looking at these fixtures, unlike last week, people will get knocked out this week. They absolutely will. So if I get another win, I'm in really, really good shape. But it's not easy. I think I'm going to go for Brighton. I always fancy Brighton at home to Newcastle. It's a long trip for Newcastle, as we all know, English geography. Yeah. It's where we all shine. Newcastle post international break.
They won't get home until 3 o'clock the next day.
They've got the Champions League later on in the week. Brighton are in good form. Danny Welbeck is back scoring goals. I'm locking it in. Make pick Brighton.
Okay, well, let's see if our expert actually agrees with that pick. Lee Phelps of William Hill is with us. Lee, how are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. I just picked up the very end of that. I've had a bit of a problem with the Zoom. Are we talking like you're in the last 10 and you're going for Brighton? Is that what we're saying here?
Exactly, yeah. The last 10 of our OTB
I don't have many choices, Lee, though. It's like it's them or Sunderland, to be honest, or West Ham, and nobody wants to be picking West Ham.
Let me just. Can I give you a few stats around people who are still in at this stage? And this is not only the Off the Ball League, but the original £500,000 league. Obviously, all been going since game week 1, and brilliant for being in the last 10, by the way. So in the of all the teams that are available left to pick, 34.6% of players have gone for Sunderland. 21.5% have gone for Chelsea. Nearly 12% have gone for West Ham, which I'm amazed at. That's a Monday night game, of course, against Brentford. 11.3% have gone Crystal Palace. Do you know how many have got? I don't want to worry you too much, but 0.9% of all players have gone Brighton. 0.9. That's 45 people, I think, have gone for Brighton so far.
Make that 46.
I could be in the last 45
look,
in the 500 grand.
They've actually got, yeah. They have got a decent record against Newcastle, haven't they? Like, maybe that's one of the reasons why you've gone for it. But yeah, I'm surprised by that. Who have you got left, incidentally? Have you got any of those teams that I mentioned that you haven't got left?
All of them except for Chelsea. So I talked about West Ham, but it's very hard to trust West Ham at the moment. And Sunderland, it's more Sunderland being a recently promoted team. To back them to win any game, I think, is a big ask. Yeah. I think even though they're it's a lower level game in general, and Sunderland have started well, I can just feel that game being a draw. Whereas I've seen so many Brighton games where, it doesn't happen every weekend, or where they are in the league for a reason, but they're as likely to go and win a big Saturday game 3-0 as they are to get any other result. It just seems to happen a lot with them. Danny Welbeck gets 2, and everybody loves Brighton again for a couple of weeks.
That's the thing. So hopefully, Mick, that comes through for you.
I get it. I do understand it, and it's like
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I do get it. I absolutely do get it. I just, you just wonder if they've got. My worry is that Newcastle have just got a bit too much firepower. But so have Brighton. Brighton have got great players, and I think it'll be open. I mean, I think I was looking at a score draw in this one, but it's such a tough week, isn't it? I mean, if you've made it this far in the competition, I know the previous week before the international break was fairly easy. I think 90% of players made it through from the previous. But this is a really tough week. I think we're going to see a lot of players come out of it by the end of this week. I'm intrigued by the one person. This is in the 500,000 euro game. One person's gone Everton. What if there are all draws and Everton managed to beat City? That'd be worth the 500,000 euros. To be fair, you probably may as well have the ACCA. But incredible. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens this weekend.
It is a brilliant slate of fixtures all around this weekend. Lee, what else are you looking at? I know Liverpool versus Manchester United is probably the glamour tie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's probably still just, isn't it? Even though Man United probably lost a bit of their glamour over the recent seasons. It's Gold Weekend at William Hill, which means more offers, more value all weekend, and we're celebrating it with an epic boost on every Premier League match. So make sure you look out for those. That's where we boost the price from odds on to even money. There's some really interesting ones. I think there are so many fascinating games. I mean, the Forest Chelsea game, 12:30, with Ange has just given this press conference, hasn't he, where he's just given all the journalists even more, and all of us lot even more gold to work with. No Chris Wood. I think he's lost 4 times to Chelsea, Ange, so far in his career in the Premier League. Chelsea are a little bit short, but I think they'll probably just edge it. So there's a couple of players there that I like, Estevao and his Brazilian teammate. Well, didn't play that many games, to be fair, over the
just having a little
international break. He's also in the Europa League. Can he
just
get a Premier League
with that line? We might try and re-establish Lee in a second. But I think we got a good gist there from Lee Phelps. We do want to move on and go game by game this weekend, and I guess we should start with Liverpool versus Manchester United. We'll come back to Ange and his comments. The last time Manchester United went to Liverpool and actually won was at the start of 2016. It's been a feature of this week's writing, the Louis van Gaal era. Do you get nostalgic for the Louis van Gaal era and how good it was? Trophy laden?
Well, trophy laden with 1 trophy.
Yeah, I mean that year.
Give us a Louis van Gaal's Red Army.
They went and they won in Anfield. They won in Anfield in January 2016. They won the FA Cup a few months later. Heady times.
Heady times. Yeah, I think it was one match across the Fellaini header. I don't know, the keeper made a save or hit the woodwork, and Rooney scored, and he had notoriously a really bad record in Anfield, and he scored the winner that day. Just looking through some of the results, there's been some quite forgettable games between Liverpool and Man United over the years. I remember, do you remember Red Monday? That was an October game where it was a big build up. I think it was Mourinho's United, and it was Liverpool 0, Manchester United 0. The heady days, I suppose, for Manchester United fans, the game that we really do look back fondly on is the Juan Mata, the Wanfield game. Those 2 goals, feels like a long time ago. When especially you think back to that United team who had Ander Herrera, Juan Mata, Angel Di Maria, Wayne Rooney. So yeah, like there's absolutely no evidence for Manchester United to go and kind of upset the apple cart and win on Sunday. It's like Liverpool obviously lost the last 3, and United haven't won back-to-back games at all last season in the Premier League, and never obviously in the tenure of Ruben Amorim. So they won the last game against Sunderland. I cannot see them winning this game.
Now, the thing about that conversation around Liverpool is that was the beginning of the Jurgen Klopp era at that point. I think at the end of that season they end up finishing 7th, 8th, and it's the following season that Liverpool really click into gear. So it's quite timely that the last time Manchester United won there was right before that era began. So when you analyse how likely it is for Manchester United to go to Liverpool and actually get a win in this era, you got to talk a lot about where Liverpool are at the moment, and obviously their form hasn't been scintillating, and there are deeper issues. Like reading Jamie Carragher in the Telegraph this morning, he's really painting the picture that Mo Salah's form is a concern. He has stopped short of writing this as a sort of writing the obituary of Mo Salah's prolific nature in the Premier League, because he has proven people wrong plenty of times in the past. He talks about Salah's record versus Manchester United being absolutely amazing. He scored more against Manchester United than any other team in the Premier League. But there is a greater level of concern with regards to his form in the Premier League. And if you go back to his last 21 Liverpool appearances, which goes back to last March, Salah has only scored 5 times, and 2 of them were penalties. If you go back to his previous 42 games for the club, he scored 32 times. So he has, in terms of goal scoring, gone off a cliff in the last 21 games relative to the previous 42. Can he get back to that 42 level in the near future? Possibly can.
Even look at like the 2 of them are penalties. One of them was then first day of the season where he always scores, and it was the additional goal at the last minute. Yeah. You know what I mean? He wasn't the guy in that game either. It's not to dismiss any goal, but in terms of Salah stepping up with the big moment outside of penalties, we haven't seen it yet this year. The chances, he started missing chances. There was a conversation I heard about Watkins. It was like he's not even missing sitters yet, which is like we have to go through that before we get the goals.
He did get his goal.
That was the big moment of like what like this is how bad this is. Credit the Villa podcast with that one. But Salah has started getting the chances now, and I wonder I just think the idea that a switch was flicked and Mo Salah is on the decline now, I just don't buy that, as opposed to him just not being in form at the start of the season and the system maybe not suiting him as much as it has in the past. I think they will come around to that. I think Mo Salah will have a purple patch this season. Might not start this week, but I don't see it as... it's a long-term problem for Liverpool, and I think it might be a bigger problem into how this team fits together and how they figure that out. But I just don't think it's Mo Salah's finished, so now what are they going to do?
If you're Mo Salah and you want to win the Golden Boot, the purple patch has to come pretty soon. Well, first of all, you've got to knock Erling Haaland off it, and that's probably not going to happen this season.
Yeah.
If you want to come second in the Golden Boot this season, you've got to hit the purple patch soon, because you've got the AFCON coming as well. Like you need to find some sort of form now, really.
Yeah. But that's an individual thing. I think from Liverpool's point of view,
I'm just kind of using that just for argument's sake. Like if we're looking at this him in isolation, and if we're going to be looking at the end of the season, be like, oh God, that was an absolutely awesome season from Salah. It has to be like the waiting kind of has to be over, and it has to be in November, December in particular, where he goes to town and actually shows that he's still at the level of last season.
Traditionally, I think Mohamed Salah's kind of worst form has come after the African Cup of Nations. Now it's quite interesting this season where let's see what happens after the AFCON in December and January, but if he is to return to the form that we know that he can have in a Liverpool shirt, he's going to need some help from the rest of the team as regards to creating chances. Yeah. And I think Liverpool, I know they've lost the last 3 games, but they've lost the last 3 games Palace dominated them in the first half of that game. Salah played a role in the goal to get them back in that game. But I think like Wirtz has yet to find his form. Alexis McAllister is probably one of the best midfielders in the Premier League last season as well, has yet to find his form. He still needs the rest of the team to function in with a high output around them. And I think then we will see the Salah that we know.
Yeah, they spent nearly 400 million on players that play right beside him.
Yeah.
You don't one of them clicks as well. Isak starts scoring in huge numbers, a lot of attention goes to him, and things open up a little bit for Salah as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They haven't really. I think they scored a couple, I know, but I don't think that forward line has been hitting on all cylinders yet, and it has to be more than one player.
That is one of the caveats that Carragher makes as well, is that he's played in front of 4 different right backs so far this season. So that problem position is maybe having a knock-on impact on Mo Salah's form as well. What are we saying here, though? We're not saying this is enough to be confident that Manchester United are going to get their first win at Anfield in 9 years.
So the first win, but the other way I would look at it is Manchester United haven't lost at Anfield the last 2 times they've been there, and that's coming off the back of a 7-0, humiliation, end of days kind of stuff. Like, they can never live down from this. And they went there next time, and their 0-0 draw when Dalot was controversially sent off was one of the better Manchester United performances around in that time. That was a time of awful form, and United played really well in that game and kind of stood up a little bit. And then I think that was probably one of their better Ten Hag performances, David. And then last year got the 2-2 draw. They've obviously had the win at Old Trafford in the Cup, which was like one of the great Manchester United moments in in a terrible era for a great club. So I don't think United are in this place where they see going to Liverpool as an impossible task. People talked about that. Oh, and if Liverpool after the international break, it's only going to get worse. But I don't know if they see it that way. And obviously in Liverpool's form, they'll see an opportunity as well. I wonder, are United better suited to being this kind of nothing to lose underdog and in a game that they will naturally rise themselves for because it's their biggest rival?
Yeah, I think United's best Premier League performance under Ruben Amorim was that 2-2 draw last season. And obviously Harry Maguire had the chance at the end of the game to win the game. He said that in his press conference today, that they showed that they could compete with Liverpool, and it's now, can they kind of replicate more consistent form after the games with Liverpool? So they could very well get a draw. I don't think so, but even get a win on Sunday. But it's the games in the following in the following weeks that will ultimately decide the fate of Ruben Amorim. But Manchester United, I think their best wing back / defender, Nusayr Mazraoui, is out for the game. Dalot's going to have to play. Where does Amad Diallo play? In the game last year, Bruno Fernandes played kind of an inside left position, and he destroyed Alexander-Arnold. And Liverpool actually couldn't come up with a system or a plan to try and foil that game. They actually dominated in the left-hand side, and it was Dalot's runs in behind that caused lots and lots of problems for Liverpool. And that's where the goals came. The Amad Diallo goal came. For the equaliser. And Dalot was kind of excellent in that game because he was just running forward all the time, and Bruno was kind of sucking Alexander-Arnold out of position. Whether Liverpool change system again, obviously last year in the first game of the year between Liverpool and Man United was in Old Trafford, and Slotkin basically said after the game, he kind of dissected Erik ten Hag's entire team and said, we know they were going to press high but leave a lot of space in midfield. So I think this game is actually going to turn out to be a really interesting game as in a kind of from a tactical point of view. But whether Manchester United have they made mistakes against Brentford and got punished. If they make mistakes against Liverpool, they definitely will be punished. So if United can eliminate the mistakes, come up with a similar plan to what they done in Anfield last season, then there's every chance they can get a draw, maybe even a win. But I still don't have a lot of faith.
No, and also the results so far this year against the so-called bigger teams have been mixed at best. That chaotic game in Chelsea was the last one they played. Yeah. Fell over the line in that, and then prior to that obviously got smashed by Manchester City. So it's hard to know how they actually fare against a big team.
It's hard to know how the form of Liverpool bounce back as well. Liverpool play at their best, and they're a much better team than United. They've lost 3 in a row. Maybe the international break comes at the exact right time. They all go off and do their own thing for a week. Yeah. They come back. The cloud isn't as over them. They come back. They're telling each other what's going on, and they're just sort of getting on with it. And suddenly, we're champions. We're in a good position to win the league again. Let's just start again. Who knows? The
thing is with Manchester United, it actually suits them not to have the ball. They don't. Amorim hasn't developed a team where they can kind of dominate possession. That also is down to the lack of bodies in midfield. So I think United to play in the counter-attack, and that was the best football that United have played since the Sir Alex Ferguson era, has been the counter-attacking Solskjaer era football. And it's probably been, especially in the big games against the big teams, that has been United's most kind of successful route to victory.
Let's move on to Nottingham Forest against Chelsea. The talking points around Nottingham Forest in their last few games have revolved around one man and one man only. That is going to be no different this week because Ange Postecoglou, he was asked a fairly straightforward question in the press conference. It was like the second question he was asked, or the third question he was asked, about how do you deal with the noise around your future, and he delivered a lengthy rant. We call it a rant? A lengthy answer, a soliloquy from Ange Postecoglou. All you got to do is just listen to this. There's no editing we can do to this. It's beautiful.
I guess from my perspective, there's, I just don't fit. Not here, just in general. If you look at it through the prism of, I'm a failed manager who's lucky to get this job, and you're smirking at me, but that's what's been said, right? And I can find the print that's actually that said. Then, of course, this first 5 weeks looks like this guy's under pressure. There is an alternative story that you can look at it. And I'm not directing this at you, you just asked the question. You're first off the block. I came into the Premier League 2 years ago. I took over Tottenham, Spursy Tottenham. I was told by the chairman at the time, this club has to win a trophy. Has to win a trophy. He said, we've tried to bring winners in. Jose Antonio hasn't worked. We need something different. I was slightly offended by that because I see myself as a winner. I took over Spurs. I finished 8th. No European football. Big club, massive club, no European football. Can't go 2 years without European football. We finished 5th my first year. And every time Harry Kane scores a goal, I wish he just stayed one more year. Yeah? It would have been handy to have him after finishing 5th. But somehow that year has disappeared from the record books. In fact, it was used as a reason for me losing my job because even Tottenham decided to exclude the first 10 games because they were an anomaly, apparently. Although the first 10 games here are very important, apparently. But anyway, we finished 5th. I got them back into European football, which a club like Tottenham should be. And again, I was in meetings and people who are still at that club were in those meetings where I was told winning a trophy is everything for this football club. That's fine. We win a trophy. We shed the tag of being Spursy. It's Champions League football, which brings some rewards, the opportunity to bring better players. But all I've heard since I've finished at Tottenham is that we finished 17th last year. So if you look at it from that prism of we finished 17th, then yeah, I'm a failed manager who was lucky to get another opportunity. But again, if I have to explain why we finished 17th, really, some basic, it doesn't have to be too in-depth. Just have a look at the last 5 or 6 team sheets of us in the league last year and see what I prioritised, who was on the bench, who was playing. The last game against Brighton, the players were out partying for 2 days, which I sanctioned because I felt they deserved to. So yes, we finished 17th. If people think that's a reflection of me and my coaching, then again, I think they're looking at it through the prism of I just don't fit. So we get to the current space where there's a different story to tell, that maybe I'm not a failed manager who was lucky to get this job, but maybe I'm a manager that if you give them time, the story always ends the same. At all my previous clubs, it ends the same with me and a trophy.
Ange Postecoglou. I can't believe he's gone for the trophy thing already. Like it definitely felt like an ambitious but relatively achievable thing with Tottenham Hotspur. Now, they do have Europe. They will have the FA Cup. There will be avenues for Nottingham Forest to go and win a trophy next season. But, I mean, if he even makes it to the third round of the FA Cup this season, I think...
No, they're in the third round.
Through the third round, yeah.
Premier League teams are in the third round.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But if he makes it as a manager to the third round...
Sorry.
Yeah, if he makes it to the first weekend...
didn't understand the FA Cup there for a second.
If he makes it... If he makes it to January, basically, I'm saying, that would have been a much better way to put it. I would be quite surprised.
Yeah, I can't see any other way that this is going to end. Like, this is going to end perhaps this weekend or perhaps the following weekend. I don't know what your thoughts on it, Mick, but coming out to like defend himself in a 4.5 minute answer is just a nonsense. Like what? as a Nottingham Forest, like if you're a Nottingham Forest fan, like, what do you think of that? Like who cares what Ange has to think? Obviously he's the manager, but like stop coming out and defend stuff. Like start kind of being a bit more pragmatic. Start producing results on the pitch, which they haven't done in the first 7 games or 6 games.
It feels like they're still in the sort of getting to know each other stage, Nottingham Forest and Ange. And rule number 1 in this stage of life and a relationship is do not talk about your ex. And Ange just cannot stop talking about his ex. He is completely hung up about Tottenham Hotspur, and he introduced them into that soliloquy where there was no tee up for Tottenham Hotspur whatsoever in the question from the journalist. He is utterly obsessed by the fact that he got dumped last year by somebody that he feels should not dump him. And he's still trying to get through this, and he should talk to his friends about this, and he should maybe go and, you know, discuss what's going on in his own head.
And it was too early to get into a new relationship.
It was way too early.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Take some time for yourself.
Is Nottingham Forest the Ange Postecoglou rebound?
The rebound, you know, you can do a lot of damage
That's a
in the
high-stakes
rebound
rebound
as well. Like, yeah, exactly.
Go back to Australia for your rebound and come back when you want something meaningful, Ange.
Are Australian relationships less important than English relationships?
I mean, I don't want to downgrade the A-League.
So anyway, I completely agree with you. I think the idea of him answering a question like that by talking about his own achievements, whatever, I think is legitimate enough. If I'm a fan, I'm not too worried about him saying, the context is important. Am I a failed manager who they brought in? Then obviously I should be sacked, but I'm not. I'm a successful manager. This needs time. Let's give it time. But it is the absolute obsession with let's go match by match at what we did at Tottenham. Because that's all I really am thinking about constantly, that I would be red flagging if I was a Forest fan. So it is mad. It's also it's completely untethered to reality. You know, I talked to you on this show a couple of weeks ago. I said horrendous job at Spurs. You thought horrendous was too strong, and we argued it out and came to unsatisfactory anyway. I think was where we'll meet in the middle somewhere. You know, but obviously not a good job at Spurs.
Well, new information has now come to light. He allowed his players at Spurs to go on the lash a couple of days before a Premier League game. So, is that good management? I would say no.
But I was about to
maybe
get
it
to
was
this.
horrendous.
I was about to get to this. He goes, and we finished 17th, and it's like, anyone who looks at that, look at the teams I put out. It's like you were there all season.
Yeah.
They were in 7th, they started in 15th, 16th, 17th, whenever he decided the only thing I can do to save my job is win the Europa League. Who's to say? I never got the sense they were going to suddenly start winning Premier League games last season. You know, and even the Europa League, again, it's not to undermine, it is undermining it, I am undermining it, but it's not glibly undermining it for no reason. It's not to suggest that it's not an achievement, but they had an unbelievably easy run. There was no game in there that even a team as out of form and as injury prone as Spurs were, that you would expect them not to get through.
Yeah.
Over 2 legs. And then they had a final against a team who were somehow in a bigger crisis than they were.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. That's all it was. That's luck.
Yeah.
That is, I'm sorry, it's not nothing. You got yourself in a position where you qualified for it and so on with a really good and expensively assembled squad. But they qualified for Europa League the year before. Fine. Absolutely. There's loads of it that isn't luck. But actually winning that trophy,
he
got lucky.
Yeah, and they beat Bodo Glimt, they beat Eintracht Frankfurt, and he'll argue that, they're Champions League teams, but if you look at the Tottenham,
they're not winning the Champions League.
But if you look at the Tottenham, what they pay in salary to all the players every season, the valuation of their squad, they vastly dwarf everyone else in that competition last year, bar Manchester United. Manchester United probably spend a bit more on wages than Spurs, but to come out and to use your 5th place finish 2 seasons ago as some sort of defence.
What did you think about that? The first 10 games when everybody was excited and how that's been kind of cut out of. I don't mind that being cut out of history, but it did happen.
Yeah.
But it's because it crashed and burned that it's of no use to him.
No,
that Chelsea game was the craziest game that ever happened in the Premier League.
Yeah.
The craziest manager performance that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the time it was kind of applauded as a sort of, he is...
I was saying, isn't it worth trying something new? You've got 9 men, what are you going to do?
Yeah, he's a slave to entertainment, and we're all being entertained. To be honest with you, I'm not actually sure I've fully airbrushed out those first 10 games, to be honest, in the way that he's saying. Like, this is probably why I disagree with you on the horrendous point.
Yeah.
I probably still have, like, these visions of the early stage at Tottenham version of Ange. And I think, there's serious potential in what he's actually done with that team, as opposed to judging him too much on the end of it. But that's obviously what's in his head, like, clearly, like, embedded in his brain, because, like, this was like almost like Rafa levels of, like, premeditated rant.
That's the first thing I thought of, is this is kind of Rafa lost his marbles kind of thing, and we're in October. It's like a long way to go before the end of the season. I know Rafa Benitez is Ron Kim kind of in a title race. The fact is that those first 10 games of the season where he done really well, I think he won. Did he win the first 3 Manager of the Month awards in that season as well?
Did he really? Yeah,
I think so. But there was actually quite, like, there was a game against. I remember the game against Manchester United where at, like, 0-0, United had a blatant penalty for handball, not given. They score, like, shortly after that, and they go on to win the game. There's quite fine margins. They beat Man City as well in that run as well, and in a game of fine margins. I think, like, as much as I have criticised Postecoglou, and I'm actually delighted from that he's kind of proven that he's came from Australia and he's been a Premier League manager, he's won a European competition, and I think that's brilliant. But I actually think the fault of this entire thing is Evangelos Marinakis and Edu and, the powers that be in Nottingham Forest, because essentially they've, obviously, Nuno Espirito Santo and Edu fell out, and they felt, okay, we have to back the new sporting director. But it's Marinakis who's decided to put Postecoglou in this position. And I'm not saying he's out of his depth, but he has, like, literally a squad built for counter-attacking football, and he is not going to play that way. So
I know it wasn't an option for him, but the perfect rebound for Ange Postecoglou after this desperate breakup would have been give Celtic a "you up" text. Celtic unavailable.
You up text.
Brendan Rodgers leaves anytime soon. David, are you taking Ange at Celtic?
So on the rebound, you go back to your ex.
Brendan Rodgers done
for
it.
bigger and better things.
Yeah, I mean, and, like, I think it's like proximity. Like, we'll talk about Tottenham soon, and, like, Tottenham have settled down with, a man with luscious locks and, like, handsome Scandinavian tendencies,
And yet somehow safe.
and so yet somehow safe, dangerous yet safe,
Caring,
warm,
trusting.
What a catch.
Yeah.
What a catch for Tottenham.
Yeah.
And he's looking over there, and he just can't stand the sight of Tottenham being with Thomas Frank.
Yeah. Although Thomas Frank is going to realise that his football clubs be crazy.
And Ange is waiting.
He's going to have a few problems.
Ange will send him an understanding text 6 months down the line. Will you take him back at Celtic, Ange?
See, Brendan Rodgers has done that. Literally done that exact same thing. He went Celtic, Leicester, and now he's back at Celtic.
There you go.
And
It's a long rebound.
And then, see, Celtic, the problem was, so he left Celtic for Leicester.
Yeah.
Then he went back to his ex, and it was all harmonious for a while. They tried to make it happen. They tried to kind of say, like, we rediscovered magic. But the magic was never rediscovered.
No.
Celtic never regained their trust in the man who left them.
No.
And it's all ending horribly.
Yeah.
With a load of titles.
Presumably.
Yeah, but it's like, I just think, no offence to any Celtic fans out there, but the whole Scottish football thing is irrelevant. Like, the Rangers are a basket case and no one else can compete until maybe this season, with Hearts obviously top of the league there. But let's see how that kind of goes. But if Postecoglou is to go anywhere, why not go into international
They could
management?
win tomorrow. Do you know, it's like kind of like the weird 12:30 game after an international break. Do you know, like, for all the downside of Ange, and I don't think he'll last here, he is an interesting game plan manager.
Yeah.
And Chelsea are very inconsistent, and we had the conversation last week about their season and their manager, and how Enzo might be kind of like losing his grip on that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I mean, Chelsea are I think they're going to win one week, lose another.
Yeah.
That's the sort
They're
of
not
team they
trustworthy
are,
either.
No, we're not necessarily saying that this is definitely going to be a Chelsea win by any stretch of the imagination tomorrow afternoon. Speaking of Tottenham, home to Villa tomorrow. This feels like a glamour. Sunday. Yeah. It feels like a glamour tie of 2 seasons ago.
It was the 4th versus 5th year when Ange finished 5th, having battered Villa, I think 4-0 in the run-in, which was a scary day. Interesting fixture, though.
Yeah.
I know it's not the glamour fixture it was, but Spurs have obviously started the season well, and everybody's happy with Thomas Frank without kind of really firing on all cylinders yet, and we don't really know what their level is. I think Spurs, more than almost any other team this year, we're kind of looking at thinking this is going to be better, but where do they fit? I don't know what tier they're on. I think it's probably tier 2, fighting for Champions League, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, but we don't really know yet. And Villa's trajectory has been up all the way, but it started really, really low. So they've won their last 2 games. They're unbeaten in 4 in the Premier League. They've obviously had European wins in the middle of all that as well. So it's their first test of any kind in this season. So, they had a nice fixture list to try and find the form that was lacking at the start of the season. But now I think it's Spurs, City, maybe Newcastle after that, or Newcastle certainly in and around. So, oh no, they've already played Newcastle. There's another big team after the City game. So it's all
Liverpool.
Liverpool, there you go. So Villa have a tough run now, so they have to actually get a point at least on Sunday.
Well,
funnily enough, because otherwise it's going to be back into crisis, because you could lose 3 in a row here very easily.
Yeah, funny you say that, because the last 23 games between Tottenham and Villa, there's been no draws.
No.
So, Tottenham have 16 wins, 7 losses in that period. So Spurs have obviously a good record, like what we seen 2 seasons ago as well.
Remember Villa equalised against Spurs a couple of seasons ago, and Emery went absolutely crazy. And you're like, what? Why did he react so much to an equaliser just before half time? And Villa scored early enough in the second half and bossed the second half, and you kind of realised it was the first kind of Emery Villa moment where you're like, this is an unbelievable manager here. He had Spurs figured out, and he knew that if we got that goal before half time, we had them.
Yeah.
But it hasn't always worked out that way, as you say. Like, Spurs obviously have they've had some big wins against Villa. Yeah. Like, they've destroyed them a few times.
Yeah.
But I don't know if any of it's relevant, actually, to this season.
No.
This feels like a really new Spurs team.
Yeah, because I thought they did quite a tough test away to Leeds at Ellen Road at the last half-12 game on a Saturday just before the international break. Kind of rotten conditions during that storm, and I thought they were excellent. I think Mohamed Kudus, I think I said it here a few weeks ago, he's one of maybe the top 2 or 3 signings in the Premier League so far this season. He's been excellent. I think the team is starting to, there's a lot more solidity I find about this Spurs team, and I think that's a lot to do with Palhinha in the middle of the field, who's a player I thought a lot of other Premier League clubs should have had a look at, and Tottenham did really well to get him. Spurs are, I know we'll go back to Ange, but Spurs are a much different team when they have Mickey van de Ven and Christian Romero at the back. Romero's still a doubt, I think, for Sunday. He could be back. But if they have those players fit, and that spine of the team, like Palhinha, Bentancur is actually playing a bit better than last season as well, and Kudus out wide, I think they're going to drop points, but they're going to definitely be a really hard team to beat.
Yeah.
Just before we wrap,
that, yeah.
Any chance of a banana skin, bit of an upset at Craven Cottage tomorrow, Fulham versus Arsenal at 5:30?
Not for me at the moment. I'm very trusting of Arsenal in these kind of fixtures in a way that's the way they're built at the moment. There's a scar tissue there because this is the ultimate Arsenal away at small West London club. Definitely. That you're coming away with 1 or 0 points and your season is upended. But it feels like this Arsenal team are just built completely differently. It's the big teams I worry with Arsenal at the moment. It's not. They're going to pick up. They're going to be in the title race because they're going to win all these games.
Yeah, Arsenal have had 1 defeat in their last 18 London derbies. I think that was that West Ham game last year.
Yeah.
Odegaard's out for a few weeks again, but they just have such a good and deep squad.
I think they've only won one of their last 3 against Fulham. I think it was like New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, not last season but the season before, where Fulham actually beat Arsenal. And it feels like West Ham is of that mould. It's a club that comes along around the festive time and has punctured Arsenal's. Brentford has punctured Arsenal's chances around Christmas, New Year time. So probably a bit of scar tissue there. But
Fulham aren't playing well either. That's another thing.
They lost the
last two. 2-3-1
2-3-1 defeats. Yeah, exactly. Lads, a pleasure. Best of luck this weekend, Mick.
Thank you,
Mick.
Let's go Brighton.
Come on, Brighton.
Let's go you.
Sorry, Newcastle
Seagulls. Let's go you Seagulls.
Come on, you
Let's go Gulls.
Yeah.
Michael McCarthy, David Wilson, that has been Final One Standing. We'll chat to you next Friday.
The Final One Standing by William Hill on Off the Ball. Download the app and play today. 18+, gamblingcare.ie.